Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 193 based on novel. So let's start. The soul kept evolving. Luo Feng spoke to Barbata simultaneously. The training of the Luo Fu Liu board, what's there to warn about? Using that board and normal spirit weapons are definitely different. Barbata said, the Luo Fu Liu board already has a thread of its own life. The training would be pretty close to that of the cloud contact vine. Slit my wrist? Luo Feng laughed. Anyway, you have to let it suck your blood first. Barbata said, even though it has a hint of life, it's not considered a life form. The cloud contact vine, however, is a life form. The training of the vine is easier. The Luo Fu Liu board is a little more troublesome. First it'll have to suck your blood, after which you'll have to bring it about and use spirit energy on it for long periods of time to appease it. It's like water seeping in and molding stone. It requires a long period of time for your spirit energy imprint to seep in. The moment it succeeds, the board will meld with your skin and take form. Barbata said. Luo Feng was surprised. Change? Is it the same as wearing a genetic armor? Even though it can take the shape of armor, the board doesn't have the auto-defensive ability. Its armor form will at most be similar to your outermost armor right now, only taking the brunt of impact. Barbata said, its proficiency is in flying. How fast it can fly will depend on you. Of course it's definitely a lot better than the Dark Cloud Shuttle. Luo Feng nodded. He immediately brought out the peculiar stone board and slit his wrist, fresh blood staining the stone. The stone board swiftly drank the blood, especially in the center where the engravings formed the bird picture. It seemed to move a little. After feeding it once, he used it as a cushion and sat cross-legged on it, sending spirit energy into it gradually and simultaneously accepting the inheritance. The gold soul fruit was incredible. The fruit had the ability to affect undyings, much less Luo Feng. The lower the basics, the more obvious the effects. After eating that one gold soul fruit, Luo Feng felt an incredibly obvious change in his soul. The color of his soul became a mix of blood red and gold. I've been accepting the inheritance for over 3 years. My survival mission in Demon Mountain is completed. If I don't leave now, my teacher will be worried. Luo Feng ordered. Barbata, open connections to the virtual universe network. Understood. Barbata answered. Just like when a person was focusing on something important and didn't want to be disturbed. When Luo Feng was receiving the inheritance, he didn't want any calls to come through. After all, if he didn't close communications, his family and friends would all call once every few days. Connect to the virtual universe. He sent a thread of consciousness into the virtual universe network, arriving at Yuxiong Mountain. Absolute beginning district, Luo Feng's villa. He appeared out of thin air. The guards and staff were all shocked from his arrival, after which they all regained their senses and bowed respectfully. Your Majesty. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. The leader sector Lord Ao Duo, who was lying in the distant chair and sipping wine, immediately swiftly stood up, his face full of glee and surprise as he rushed over. Your Majesty, there hasn't been any news from you the past few years. We've been all very worried. Luo Feng laughed. The news of you accepting the impossible level mission has long spread. Within Yuxiong Mountain, there's been a rumor that you died at Demon Mountain. The bald old man Ao Duo said. Died? Luo Feng frowned. Who spread this rumor? No idea. Ao Duo shook his head. Luo Feng looked in the southeast direction. There stood the primal region. He muttered, Mo Luo, I don't think you were the one who spread this rumor, right? However, don't worry. I'll surprise you very quickly. After which, Luo Feng swiftly walked into his villa and entered his study. Sitting before his desk, he opened his laptop and swiftly sent a mail to his friends, family and teacher, letting them know he was fine. At that moment, many calls came. Luo Feng, you are too vicious. You've disappeared for over 3 years. And in the impossible level mission, you really scared all of us. We really thought you died there in Demon Mountain. The Manca Prince Wuka shouted excitedly, immediately come over. We haven't seen you in years. I knew you definitely wouldn't have died. On the screen, Rongjun smiled at Luo Feng. Father, grandfather. This is my great-grandson. Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked at his huge family on the screen. He couldn't help but recall that reason behind the human race becoming one of the pinnacle races was due to its numbers. He had left Earth for about 200 years, and in these 200 years, his family had grown so much. The initial few, his parents, brother's family and his family. Now? The entire Luo family had become a huge family. If a 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years had passed, the family members would range up to the millions and more. That would indeed be normal. You, get back now. On the screen Shu Xin was happy and yet angry. Luo Feng nodded. However, just as Luo Feng was about to leave immediately for his wife, his teacher Tru Yang Emperor personally came to the Absolute Beginning region. Absolute Beginning region, Luo Feng's living room. Tru Yang sat in the sofa staring at Luo Feng. Luo Feng stood obediently. No news in 3 years. Tru Yang's gaze was like lightning, sweeping past Luo Feng, and in that Demon Note Mountain. Speak, why did you close all communications in Demon Note Mountain? Teacher? Luo Feng bowed respectfully. This was my mistake. To Tru Yang, he was extremely respectful. Unlike Hu Yangbo, of which he never truly met, he had been with his teacher Tru Yang for too long. Over long periods of contact, he was very clear on his teacher's character, straightforward and strong, the way he treated his disciples like his own children. Extremely protective. One can pretend easily for 10 to hundreds of years, however for 1,000,000,000,000 years, that definitely wasn't pretending anymore. Tru Yang's character was publicly known in Primal Chaos City. Over 100 years of interaction with him, Luo Feng was able to feel his concern towards himself. He immediately bowed respectfully. Your student has had a miraculous encounter this time. Encounter? Tru Yang's eyes gleamed. Inheritance Palace? Even though Luo Feng was shocked, he didn't hesitate, right? There was no other way to explain, because in Demon Note Mountain, it was either training or dead, otherwise there was no reason to shut off communications. And training in Demon Note Mountain, unless it was the safe Inheritance Palace, there wasn't any other place to really train. Really? Tru Yang fiercely stood up. He looked at his student in disbelief. How can that be? How did you enter? Coincidence? Luo Feng smiled helplessly, pretending to look innocent. Tru Yang couldn't suppress a smile, staring at Luo Feng. However, you shouldn't have the ability to enter that at all. Speak, how many palaces are there? 32, Luo Feng said. Ha 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 ha. Tru Yang couldn't help but laugh loudly. I didn't expect the punk Mist Emperor to actually lose his slot to my student. Unlucky. What? Luo Feng was curious. Tru Yang smiled and looked at his disciple, explaining, the Demon Note inheritance was long discovered, and there are many with the ability to enter. However, the slots are limited. Your entering of the palace naturally took up one slot. And this slot was Mist Emperor's. His slot? Luo Feng realized. He really didn't know that the slots were all preset early on. The ignorant are not guilty. You entered through the impossible level mission. Even if the news is public later on, no one can find a fault with you. Tru Yang laughed. What's more, Mist Emperor and his teacher aren't people from the Virtual Universe Company. Hence there's no need to fear. What's more, if I keep the secret and you remain silent, they wouldn't necessarily find out it was you. Luo Feng nodded. Right. As long as he remained silent, even if people suspected, they would never believe that a Universe Level 9 was able to enter the Inheritance Palace. After all, even after he admitted, his teacher didn't fully believe him. There's also one more thing. Tru Yang looked at Luo Feng. The little genius Mo Luo from the Primal region told me some news about you. Mo Luo? A glint flashed in Luo Feng's eyes. He snorted. That punk is incredibly vicious. He may seem righteous on the outside. In truth, HMPH, if I wasn't lucky this time, I would really have been killed by him. So he actually backstabbed you? Tru Yang nodded. He said before that it was you who did so. What? I backstabbed him? Luo Feng felt rage and unfairness. He couldn't help but curse. This Mo Luo, shameless, ha ha. The qualification battles, do you have confidence if you meet him? Tru Yang said. Of course. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. Tru Yang nodded. Your encounter this time is indeed a miracle. Only a pity your soul is still weak, you can only take so much of the inheritance. However, even so, that inheritance technique should be enough for you for 1,000,000,000,000 years already. Luo Feng nodded. After training, he knew the value of the technique. Raising his spirit energy amplitude from 70 to 80 until over 1,200, that was over 10 times. What treasure or weapon could have that kind of terrifying effect? After which Yong left, after knowing his student was safe, he relaxed. Luo Feng felt gratitude as he watched his teacher vanish, as his teacher didn't pry into the details, asking just how he entered the palace. As for the golden horned beast identity, Luo Feng really didn't dare reveal it. Even his own parents and brother he didn't say. How could he? Saying that he wasn't exactly a human but a golden horned beast. He had always regarded himself as human. It's time to meet the wife. Luo Feng immediately teleported to Black Dragon Mountain Island 9-Star Bay. A thread of his consciousness was in the virtual universe appeasing his family and friends. In reality, he was still in Demon Note Mountain's core, Inheritance Palace. In space, Luo Feng stood on the Inheritance Stairs, progressing through each level. The Gold Soul Fruit's effects were indeed strong, it made his soul go through a huge evolution. Even if I trained there for over 5 years, he still wouldn't feel any sense of fatigue. And at this time, the once-every-century virtual universe company universe-level qualification battles were about to begin. Floating in the depths of the absolute beginning region, the majestic Demon Mountain had the one particular inheritance palace that had levels of stairs that extended into space, up to the 333th level. On the 1916th level, Luo Feng, who was dressed in silver armor, was like a statue sitting with his eyes closed on the stairs. His soul, however, was constantly evolving, countless engravings permeating his soul. Suddenly the statue stood up and his eyes opened, a glint in his eyes. Today is the day of the qualification battles, I'll have to slow down on the inheritance. He looked down at his feet. Beside them was an ancient peculiar stone board, the Luo Fu Liu board. Meld. With a thought, the board swiftly shrank and melded with his feet. His 2 years of training had finally successfully left his spirit imprint on the board. The board could change its size accordingly, it could take any form and melt with his skin or muscles, even his bones, etc. Luo Feng sent out 90% of his consciousness and swiftly entered the virtual universe. He left 10% to continue receiving the inheritance. The speed of his training would decrease greatly. It normally took a day for one level before. Right now it would probably take 10 days for one level. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. In the virtual universe absolute beginning region, the universe levels, domain lords and sector lord guards including the staff all bowed respectfully. Luo Feng nodded and flew into the sky heading towards Wuka's villa. Wuka's villa had become Luo Feng's, Jiangmo, Qian Shui, Rongjun, Lancelot, Aopat Ti La, Ari Chen and Wuka's gathering spot. Gazing from above, he saw that there were already 7 people gathered there. Luo Feng, hurry over. The tables and chairs in the villa were already filled and the people there all looked up and shouted, obviously spotting Luo Feng. I'm here. He smiled. He rushed over and instantly closed 10 kilometers and landed on the grass, walking towards the table and sitting in an empty seat. Luo Feng, today is the beginning of the qualification battles. We'll probably be gathered in a while, yet you still took your time to get over. Look, everybody else is here. Only you, the slowest. Are we not good enough for you? Wuka lifted a 1 long piece of barbecued meat and ate. While speaking, Luo Feng didn't know what kind of meat that was. Eat finish before speaking. Luo Feng sat and lifted the wine before him, opening the cork and drinking, immediately feeling refreshed. Beside, the Dream Clan beauty Ai Chen too lifted her glass and smiled. The one with the least pressure among us is probably Luo Feng. The rest of us all have a chance of being kicked into the sky and land region. Only Luo Feng definitely won't be kicked out. Right, that group of seniors have all passed the Heavenly Bridge's 6th level. Our hopes aren't too good. The group of geniuses from all different races all chatted. You all? Luo Feng put down his wine and forced a smile. Hence the latest person here is because he's the most relaxed. Rongjun chimed in and said. You too? Luo Feng shook his head. The competition within the absolute beginning region, he was 100% sure he wouldn't be eliminated. However, different strengths meant they had different targets. Wuke, Jiangmo, and Qian Shui with the others were worried about being kicked into the sky and land region. Luo Feng's aim, however, was to make it into the primal region, and making it there was extremely hard. Even with his current strength, he didn't have too much guarantee. Luo Feng. Wuke looked at him. Luo Feng. Jiangmo looked over too. Luo Feng, Luo Feng. Rong Jun, Lancelot, the rest all put down their food and drinks and looked over, 7 of them looking at him. Luo Feng was stunned. Madman. Wuke emphasized, you should know the situation of us newbies, as we just joined the virtual universe company. Hence the difference between our strengths and the seniors is pretty huge, even compared to the seniors of the sky and land region's top fighters. Amongst the 300 seniors, we are still much weaker. Among us 8, Rong Jun may be able to fight to stay in the absolute beginning region, however, no matter how he fights, he would still be amongst the bottom here. The rest of us don't even have a hint of hope. The group was silent. Right. No hope at all. The seniors of the absolute beginning region and sky and land region had about 10 of them that all passed the 6th level of the heavenly bridge. Their level in origin law comprehension, battle experience was the pinnacle amongst the seniors. The newbies were all set to be eliminated. Without a trace of hope. They couldn't bear with this helplessness. Among the 8 of us, Luo Feng. Rong Jun said solemnly. He stared at him. Only you can rush to the top. The 8 of them. 6 didn't have a hint of hope. Rong Jun too only had some chance to remain, but he'd have to give it his all. Luo Feng looked at the group of geniuses. They were all proud, however they all didn't have a glimmer of hope, only unwillingly accepting the outcome. However suppressed and angry they were within, they could only send their hopes with their fellow newbie Luo Feng. Relax. Luo Feng nodded. After about half an hour, a rumbling sound could be heard within the region. The absolute beginning universe level qualification battles are about to begin. All gather, 30 seniors and 8 newbies all looked up. The sound resounded from the skies itself, visible to the naked eye. A purple armored silhouette stood there. Immediately the 38 universe level members all rushed into the skies and all flew before that man. Look, that's Luo Fu. The strongest amongst the 30 seniors. Chemist Yu Feng. The group of geniuses in mid-air all observed their opponents, because they would all soon clash. Luo Feng too was observing 5 people. The 5 strongest of the absolute beginning seniors, from weakest, Sajin Fire Dragon, Ge, Eninan, and the 2 strongest chemist Yu Feng and Wolfman Luo Fu. Sajin waved his tail, his eyes burning as he stared at Luo Feng, filled with fighting spirit. He communicated, Luo Feng, I lost last time, but this time I will win. He lost in terms of willpower before. He couldn't withstand Luo Feng's consciousness pressure. The moment he could withstand it, then his black hole evolution could truly be unleashed. Luo Feng of back then would definitely not been able to fight back. After all, Sajin had passed the 7th level of the heavenly bridge much earlier. I won last time, I'll win again. Luo Feng looked back and replied. Ge. Luo Feng looked at the other man. Ge was a battle-crazy person. Even though he was the latest to pass the 7th level amongst the 5, he was more like Rong Jun. His battle talents were extremely high, similar comprehension levels, but the strength he could unleash was incredibly powerful. He had messy yellow hair and he squinted his eyes as he stood in mid-air. There were a set of little ears behind the 2 normal ones. He seemed dejected, but he still gave off the aura of a wild beast. The other geniuses of the region all stood further away from him, obviously not daring to get close. Ge glanced at Luo Feng and a glint flashed through his droopy eyes, after which he returned to his original dejected state. Eninan. Luo Feng glanced at the silver-armored youth. That youth was smiling. He was the easiest to get close to amongst the 5. When Luo Feng looked over, he too smiled back. Yu Feng. Chemist Yu Feng. He was the most peculiar of the 5. He was completely draped in a black robe and one could only barely see his eyes. Luo Fu. Luo Feng looked at the strongest of the 5. Luo Fu. Dressed in grey armor with yellow fur on his face, his brown eyes gleamed with green light, his fangs poked through the corners of his mouth. He made Luo Feng feel as though he was almost like a wolf. The wolfman seemed to notice Luo Feng looking over, and he turned, suddenly smiling. Rumble. Almost like a huge beast staring over, Luo Feng couldn't help but feel his hair stand. Ha ha. Ku Luo Fu chuckled lightly, interesting punk. The wolfman's words immediately made the rest of the seniors look over. Everyone including chemist Yu Feng all looked. While looking, they couldn't help but feel nervous. Luo Feng too stared back at the wolfman. Even though he had met the primal region's Mo Luo before, his subconscious still felt the absolute beginning region's strongest Ku Luo Fu was more terrifying than the primal region's Mo Luo. This group of absolute geniuses came from many races of humans, 38 representing 38 different races. Their dressings were different too. Some were in green, others in flame robes, others giving off chilly vibes. They were all noble, but 6 of them were strongest. The 5 of the seniors and the strongest newbie Luo Feng. 6. All passed the Heavenly Bridge's 7th level. The qualification battles are very simple. U38 will battle the other 37 each 1v1. The winner will get 1 point. The loser and draws will get 0. The top 3 will be picked according to the scores, and they will have the right to challenge the slots in the primal region. The purple-armored skinny man said with a hoarse voice, even his lips were purple. The primal region has a total of 5 people. They will have their own qualification battle. Their bottom 3 will fight our absolute beginning strongest 3. A total of 6 will vie for that one slot of the primal region. Silence. Luo Feng, Ku Luo Fu, Zajin, Chemist Yu Feng, Ni Nan, Ge, the 6 eyes gleamed. 3 of our absolute beginning against 3 of their primal region members, only 1 victor. Luo Feng's gaze swept past the 5 of them, along with 3 from the primal region. I must defeat all of them. Only through that will I become a primal region member. There was one messy yellow-haired decadent-looking man with 4 ears and droopy eyes. He gazed at the other 5, Zajin, Ni Nan, and Luo Feng aren't too much of a threat. My true opponents are Yu Feng and Ku Luo Fu. In the previous qualification battles, my move wasn't perfect, hence I didn't unleash it. This time, I will shock everybody and rush into the primal region. Ge was filled with ambition, and his improvement speed was indeed shocking. Defeating the other 4 will be simple, only that wolf. Yu Feng, who was draped in a black robe, looked at Ku Luo Fu. The medicine I specially made for him this time. As long as it works, I have a guarantee of making it into the primal region. Wolfman Ku Luo Fu floated silently in space. I'm currently in an impossible mission. I have to keep alert with part of my consciousness. The other part to participate here. Under normal circumstances, I can only use about 70% of my power. 70% is enough. The group all had their own thoughts. And the purple-uniformed skinny man who represented the Virtual Universe Company continued. The absolute beginning's last 18 will battle with the top 10 of the Sky and Land region. These 28 will battle for the 8 slots in the absolute beginning region. The losers will be kicked into the Sky and Land region. Luo Feng was shocked within. The chances of getting kicked out was simply too high. However, it was right. The primal region normally has 3 slots for universe level. The absolute beginning should have 30 universe levels. Any excess would naturally be kicked out. As long as they weren't strong enough, they would be kicked. Rong Jun may be in trouble this time. He looked at Rong Jun beside. Rong Jun, however, was smiling, filled with confidence. The qualification battles are just about to begin. The skinny man looked at the group of youths. The battles will take place in special locations. At that time, the virtual universe system will automatically send you over. Also, you can watch other battles through the screens. Get ready. He vanished right after he finished. The group of geniuses in mid-air then opened their screens. At this time, almost 38 of them simultaneously heard a ringing in their ears. Su! 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 They all were teleported out of Yuxiong Mountain. Qualification battles. It's begun. Luo Feng, the absolute beginning qualification battles. Your first match is about to begin. Your opponent is Moshka. The sound he had in his ears had this content. Simultaneously, an arm bracelet screen appeared on his wrist, on it the battle details displayed. Luo Feng was already transported to the location where he would face the senior Moshka. 38 people, 19 battles began simultaneously. Yuxiong Mountain Primal Region. Every Primal Region member's villa was 1,000 kilometers in area, larger than any territory on Earth. Mo Luo was dressed in long pants, standing in his vast grass field and practicing his attacks. Your Majesty is too crazy. He trains non-stop. Most of his training time is spent on his fist work. The Beast Fist's wonders don't pale in comparison to some Undying's techniques. The group of Sector Lord Guards all discussed in hushed voices from a distance. Large amount of staff too were filled with respect and shock. They worshipped this Mo Luo. Mo Luo knew how to win people's hearts. At least amongst the over 10k personnel in his villa, they all respected and worshipped him. How? He roared almost like a wild dog, instantly becoming a beam of light and rushing 10 kilometers ahead, two claws tearing fiercely ahead, causing huge tears in the grass that stretched over 100 kilometers, almost like two canyons. Received mail, the absolute beginning qualification battles have begun. A voice resounded. Only then did Mo Luo stop. It ain't living if it ain't crazy enough. Mo Luo took a deep breath. From his beggar life when he was young, death warrior training in the factions, and his competition among the elites of the Virtual Universe Company, he had fought non-stop, finally becoming a core member of the company, and even after he still had to fight to rise and stay. From the last phase region to sky and land region, from there to the absolute beginning and finally to the primal region. This way. He rose from an orphan beggar to the top, becoming a pinnacle genius of the universe. Even an Undying is only my guard. Mo Luo gazed at the distant Sector Lord Guards and the leading Undying. He smiled and nodded. Inside, however, he roared, "Why, it's because I fight for it. Using any means, as long as I win, that is the best way for success, the way for an absolute warrior to survive. It ain't living if it ain't crazy enough." Mo Luo lifted his finger and tapped gently. A screen floated there. "Watch Luo Feng's battle." Mo Luo ordered. Primal region, absolute beginning region, sky and land region, last phase region. The battles all took place at different times. As the lesser the number of people, the less time and other preparation it took. Hence the last phase region with the most number of members, just the members alone was about 10,000. The sky and land had over 300. Absolute beginning had over 30. Primal region only had 5. Hence, naturally the last phase had the most details to prepare and was the earliest to begin. And the primal region with only 5 members would be the last. The broadcast of the battles were open to any core member. Naturally the Undyings with high authority could all watch too. I don't believe that Luo Feng is still alive. Mo Luo stared at the screen. I personally kicked him down into that terrifying abyss. According to the data I've collected, anyone who falls into the abyss won't be able to survive. Mo Luo was a senior, hence his interaction with others made his knowledge and experience of the impossible missions more than the newbies. Also, he was a primal region member with high authority. He could search for more information online. Luo Feng simply relied on only searching. His information definitely couldn't compare to Mo Luo's. He's definitely dead. There's actually a rumor in the absolute beginning region that he's alive. Mo Luo's eyes were cold, as Luo Feng had sent out that mail to his friends and gone to visit Wuka and the others. However, as he was still receiving the inheritance, his time was critical, hence he only showed himself for a brief moment before returning to the palace. And only Wuka, Rongjian, and the others had seen him. The other seniors, those that attended the classes, hadn't seen him since then, hence the news of him being alive wasn't confirmed publicly. Of course, the gathering for the battles earlier was considered Luo Feng's first public appearance. However, this gathering, Mo Luo didn't personally witness. If he's alive, then I'll be able to watch the broadcast. If he's dead, there wouldn't be his battle at all. Naturally, I won't be able to see it. Mo Luo stared at the screen. Rumors are just rumors. I kicked him into the abyss personally. I can definitely confirm his death. A prompt appeared on the screen. Luo Feng's battle with Moshka is currently going on, connecting to broadcast. The information in the prompt was very clear. Mo Luo was stunned. He stared at the prompt for a while before frowning, saying softly, "He's not dead." "He's actually not dead? How can he be alive after falling into that abyss?" Rumble. Luo Feng felt the space around him warp, and later he landed in a desolate surface of a planet. The ground was a dark red, searing temperatures caused his vision to slightly warp, also the extreme gravity made him slightly tremble. The terrifying magnetic field made him uncomfortable. "What place is this?" Luo Feng was shocked. He looked down at the screen on his wrist. On it the detailed information was already translated into Earth language. Battle, absolute beginning death qualification battles, universe level, opponents, Luo Feng, 0 wins 0 loss, against Moshka, 0 wins 0 loss, location, white dwarf star, diameter 3,200 kilometers, surface gravity 361,000,000 G, temperature 21,000 degrees Celsius, white dwarf star. Luo Feng smiled. No wonder the gravity is so shocking. White dwarf star was a forbidden region to the weaker humans. Universe level 9. It normally took countless planets to produce one universe level. One universe level 9 warrior had a punch that could destroy a large continent of Earth. If he attacked the Pacific Ocean, he could create a tsunami that could engulf the entire planet. Flying speed in space could reach up to 1,500 kilometers per second. A universe level 9 was already enough to rule a galaxy. Some low-level civilization's strongest was probably at most only a universe level 9. 300 million times the gravity of Earth, over 20k degrees in temperature. White dwarf star's terrifying magnetic field was indeed nothing much to a universe level 9. Of course, if it were neutron star, a universe level 9 would instantly crumble. However, white dwarf star was something they could easily withstand. Rumble. Rumble. The land shook. Luo Feng looked over. Their silhouette was running fast, every step shaking the ground, causing the solid surface to crack with every stomp. In an instant he stopped before Luo Feng. He stared at him filled with fighting spirit. This person was about 2.2 m, skinny, bald, without a single hair on his body. Dressed in silver armor with a black belt, black boots and a wrist screen, he carried a strange-shaped blade on his back, a proper universe soldier get-up. The universe soldiers that went to battles outside the starfields would dress this way. He stared hard at Luo Feng without blinking, as if he was looking at a huge enemy. His voice was shrill as it resounded, "You are Luo Feng." This video will end here. Thank you for watching.